Hello friends, Anderson here. I've got mail. Some moons ago now I joined in a Kickstarter specifically because it had a solo RPG incentive, because Kill 10 Rats is a solo RPG channel. If you're watching this regularly, you know this. If you find this video some other way, now you know. Feel free to stay, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And this specific Kickstarter was a free leak Kickstarter concerning the second edition of the One Ring role-playing game, the Middle-earth role-playing game, and the second iteration of the One Ring RPG that came out about a decade ago. Why is this relevant if you follow a solo RPG channel? Well, the solo RPG stretch goal in particular was to implement something called the Strider mode, which is the rule set to facilitate play with a single player, but within the full scope and context of the rules as written in the books. Now, it's not out yet, and there's not really an ETA, but it has been mentioned in the Kickstarter updates that a draft has been submitted, so it'll be pushed digitally as far as I know, which means we can expect it to at least be in the stage of production where it already exists in some shape or form. One particular thing of interest to anyone who is into solo role-playing games in general and Ironsworn in particular, the solo rule set has been put together with the help of Sean Tomkin and Matt Click. Why do those names sound familiar? Well, these two. Main author Sean Tomkin, additional writing for this one, Matt Click. This is extremely promising. Oh, and they also together do the Ask the Oracle actual play podcast for Ironsworn, which does a pretty good job of outlining the rules and flow of play. But on to the One Ring. So the solo rules don't exist yet, but the fundament upon which they build is in this box. Let's have a look at it. So getting rid of the packaging material, we find that we have a wonderful rule book, a starter set, a bunch of dice which apparently are a misprint, and nothing else. I'm gonna put all of this down here. See if we can grab nice shots of all of this stuff. It looks quite beautifully designed. Now I have to note that this is some kind of special limited collector's edition as far as I understand. The Kickstarter tier was called My Precioussss, so they're very on brand, and that is a theme, having looked at the PDF preview, that pretty much runs through this. This is infused with just the look and feel and terminology and design philosophy behind a lot of rings. This really does the source material justice, in my opinion. Let's maybe give that rule book a first look. Very nice embossed cover. Starting off with a lovely map. And just purely through looking at the index alone, just the visual layout of the thing is extremely impressive. We got our sections here from system through character creation, outlining various abilities, over adventuring and fellowship phases, the DM section, in this game called a Lore Master, the world as is. This whole thing is set in Eriador. As far as I understand, the first edition wasn't, so it's a change of location, and some additional components such as patrons for your group and some example landmarks, an adventure, some creatures. Pretty nice. The system leans on this set of dice, so let's have a quick look at them. Bunch of 6-sided and 12-sided dice. There is also a little section here outlining how to use your own die 6 and die 12 with this system in case you don't have them. They only really diverge in replacing the 11 and the 12 and adding a symbol to the 6, from what I can tell. So regular dice would also work. Let's not go too far into the system, but at first glance it seems to work with the die 12 as the feat die to represent the skill check, plus the die 6 to represent your additional competency, and you roll all of that added together against the target number. And then have a look at the degree of the success. Your adventuring peoples, as outlined in the book, are Bardings, Dwarfs of Durin's Folk, Elves of Lindon, Hobbits of the Shire, Men of Bree, and Rangers of the North. So basically, the locals. You get a nice overview with stat modifiers for each of them, some naming suggestions, art, of course. All of this for each of them. Let's have a quick leaf through. And alongside your heritage, of course, you also have a career, a job, a path, a calling. And in this book there are 6 of them: Captain, Champion, Messenger, Scholar, Treasure Hunter, and Warden. Relatively self-explanatory, I would say. And quite pleasingly lore conform. Now, one thing I'm not going to go too far into, but there is a very heavy aspect on the fellowship, as there is in the source material, of course, and I do really wonder how that aspect carries over into solo play. I am very curious how that will be implemented, but I'm sure that with the authors at the helm that we have, it'll be very much in the spirit of things. So patience and we'll see. In terms of the fellowship aspect, the fellowships generally also have a patron, the same way Gandalf functioned as the patron for the original fellowship, and you can also have Gandalf in here, but you can also draw upon the patronage of Balin, son of Fundin, Bilbo Baggins, Sirdan the Shipwright. Is that how you say them? I only really ever read some of those names. I never really heard them spoken, or not consciously anyway. Gandalf, Gilrain, and Tom Bombadil, who unfortunately didn't make it into the movie. Oh well. Now, not to yada too much through this, there are 18 skills. We don't really need to go through them in detail. I think they're quite specific to this setting in their phrasing. So enhearten and song and courtesy and riddle are definitely terms that I haven't run into a whole lot in other games. But that's the whole branding and theme thing again shining through. You've got some war gear here with various drawings and depictions, quite nice. Definitely not an exclusive or very broad list, but it's a start. The chapter demarcations, the art in there is just stunning. There's a few examples, just have a look. It's gorgeous. Really just blown away by the visual presentation. Let's hop over the rule details, like the various phases of adventure and fellowship, and have a quick look at the lore master side of things. Running the game, quite useful to know naturally, and how to also deal with the fact that there is already a lot of lore out there. That is maybe something where a certain hesitancy comes through with Lord of the Rings setting in general, or Middle-earth setting in general rather. At least it's something I've felt over the years, that it's almost something I wasn't really ready to touch. I just wanted to leave it as is, and I do very much like the fact that they are giving you some ideas on how to deal with this problem of having that sacred Tolkien canon standing in the center and figuring out how your game and storyline fits into that. Goes into the mechanics as well, and also gives you a bunch of instructions for NPCs for representation of the shadow in your game, because in the setting the shadow is rising again and has risen again. And some antagonists ranging from evil men over orcs and trolls, the undead, and wolves, and werewolves. And of course, we also need some treasure, so there's rules for that as well. The world section is quite comparatively high level. It gives you a broad strokes overview and goes into details on some locations, but it definitely zooms in on the region to a level that you can comfortably set your adventures in it. And it even has a random event table for an evening at the Prancing Pony. Isn't that nice? Now, outside of the appendix, which covers a bunch of things that go into, well, spoiler territory if you intend to play this as a player, we also have a nice hex outline of Middle-earth gridded over the map and our setting here specifically. And that was that for the book. Let's have a look at the starter set as well, because I have heard many good things about it already on the Twitters. So, lifting up the box lid, what do we see? A map and more dice. I will eat those later. We have some equipment cards. Not entirely sure what this is. Looks like combat ground rules and some roles in the party. Hunter, scout, guide, lookout. A catalog for, well, to the detriment of my bank account. A wonderful looking map. I'm doubtful that I will get this all in frame here. Wow, that is two-sided. Let me share a corner with you and maybe hold it up to the camera. This is actually the Shire on one side and Eriador on the other. Very, very nice. We've got some pre-made characters for a quick start adventure. Drogo Baggins, the hobbit riding into Middle-earth to look for his Khaleesi, apparently. Lobelia Bracegirdle. These are all hobbits. Dare I say, this is set in the Shire, maybe? So yeah, there's about 5 or 6 of them. Plus Balin and Bilbo. And on the back we also have some additional information on the various character backgrounds and such. Very nice. We have The Adventures. Okay, so that is pre-made quick start adventure, a conspiracy most cracked, and probably a basic version of the rules, as well as a setting book for the Shire, which is very nice. Yeah, that's definitely a whole setting book just about the Shire, including history, locations of the various regions, etc., etc. And the rules supplied to get you going quite quickly, plus a nice little map on the bottom of the box. Now, all in all, I am absolutely enamored with these two things. I have been waiting for them for a while, and now I have to wait just a tiny bit longer for the Strider mode to come out, which is completely astonishing that it's already at the stage that it is, considering what the authors have been busy with, considering Starforged, the Ironsworn expansion on the high seas, etc. Handling that Starforged Kickstarter and whole design process, it's a crazy workload. So Strider mode, it'll come when it comes, and once it comes we will of course play it on this channel. And until then, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.